You are listening to the 2 and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
I'm really interested to see what Duron will do, because this is by far, and I'm going off the top of my head here, the best quarterback he will have ever played with. And some of the things that he has done.
Shade of Brennan Bridge.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the 2 and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out, and they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Brazilian Ty, how you doing, buddy?
I'm starting to rebound. It was a little rough this morning.
So we're at a wedding last night. How are the knees feeling? Because apparently Brazilian Ty gave, well, not apparently, you did, gave everybody a lesson in how to rock the old foot loose.
They don't feel great. The hamstrings are a little tight. Knees are a little bruised and sore. I was in better shape, though, than our buddy's sister-in-law. So I had that home for me, which was nice. So I couldn't look that bad.
You still had the power to drape her over your shoulders, man.
Somebody had to get her out of there.
But I didn't know you had that in you.
I've grown up a lot.
Like, sliding across the dance floor on your knees, I'd still be there.
It wasn't easy. It gets tougher and tougher with every wedding.
And we are doing this in person for the second time ever. I won't lie. It's kind of weird. Because I have to be dressed.
It's disconcerting. Yeah.
Every time I do it with somebody else, I have to dress.
Well, I do appreciate it.
Well, you were not wearing that much at some points in the night last night either.
One thing led to another, and I saw the opportunity to do my best George Costanza impression. I took full advantage.
If you are getting married and you want George Costanza and you got a photo booth, Brazilian Ty is your guy.
Roughly the same body type.
In the Huddle with Currah and Ty on the 2 and Out podcast.
Okay, of course, free agency got underway this week. And it's been the talk for almost like the last year and a half that all of these contracts are going to expire after the 2018 season, and then nobody's going to sign, or a lot of the big name players aren't going to sign because of the CBA. Well, that wasn't the case.
No, everything kind of blew up.
Oh, yeah.
On the morning of the 12th, and I'm assuming the new salary cap is going to be like $10 million with the money that they're throwing around out there. But there's guys like Desjardins who think it's not going to move that much. And he said, there's going to be guys, there's going to be cuts, and we can, because let's be honest, Ottawa lost. They might have lost the most off of any team in the league. And so he said, there will be additions that we can make after roster cuts because they don't think the cap's moving, and they've seen the money that's been thrown around or reportedly thrown around, and there's going to be chances and surprise cuts, or maybe not surprises, but there'll be financial reasons. It won't be so much skill, I don't think.
I think there might be a lot of trades. Just the way that money's been thrown around. And, I mean, if the cap doesn't move, it might move by, I'm just spitballing, if it goes up by another $500K or something like that. And what if they do up the minimum salary? So then all those lower guys have to get paid more. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to make room somewhere.
But every team's going to be in that situation.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to make trades, and I think what's going to happen is that trades are going to have to be dollar in, dollar out to a certain extent. You're not going to be able to do a big salary dump like you can in other sports, and that's going to make it really tough for teams to get stuff done. And like I said before, we're going to see guys get cut that you were not expecting.
Yeah.
But when you look at the money and if the cap doesn't move up nearly as much as some, I don't know if Ed Hervey has information that we don't on the cap moving up, and Desjardins doesn't have that info. But there's going to be guys that aren't going to have jobs because the financial just won't work.
How about a guy putting his stamp on his team that fast.
and Brock Sunderland did it too.
He did. He made it his team.
It's definitely, we talked about last year, BC had, coming into the year, they had to do something about that O-line. Because the year before, it was not great. Ed Hervey addressed it, and, the O-line was better. The quarterback play was subpar for BC last year. I don't think that's really debatable, considering the two they had in the years that those guys have had. And now, that team is a totally different dynamic with Mike Riley back there. And they bring in Suk Chung, and they paid a lot of money for him.
Yep.
But as I would say an elite offensive lineman in the CFL, or, top tier lineman, and we see the hits that Mike Riley takes. If you can limit the hits, you're going to get your return on investment. And Riley's an Ed Hervey guy, and I think it was an easy choice, or like the easy pick. So I don't think it comes as a surprise, but just the money is like, I don't know what's going to happen
for everyone that's getting reported,
and like even wide receivers and guys that typically don't make the big dollar, because you have to be able to spread that money out, or getting paid, and it's like, what are you going to do with the rest of your roster? It's going to be really tough to fit.
So I guess we could go back to last Monday when the Eskimos announced that CEO Len Rhodes was not going to be back. And in a roundabout way, and it's funny because before free agency started, we knew the Mike Riley thing was going to happen. And then basically when it was confirmed, and then the dollar figures started getting leaked that he was going to, basically get $2.9 million over 4 years, that Len Rhodes was going to be gone. They call it mutual. I don't know how mutual it is, but I guess his last day on the job is going to be Wednesday. And a lot of Eskimo fans, now here, a week later, free agency has gotten underway. It doesn't look as a bad situation anymore, or at least as bad as it did, that they were going to be losing their franchise quarterback and a whole lot more. So then Len Rhodes ended up taking the fall there. I mean, in a roundabout way, the Eskimos did all they could to keep Mike Riley. They matched BC's offer. I don't know if they could have done anything different to keep him.
I don't think so. It's tough for Americans, especially. And he's got a young family, and they spend a lot of time back in Washington and in the Vancouver area. So it just makes so much sense for him. And, people will bitch and moan, saying, I can't believe he left, and blah, 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 blah. Like, you wouldn't do the same thing if you had an opportunity to work basically from home, or you're like where you would call home, or really damn close, for the same dollar amount, and be closer to home, closer to his parents, and it's just the family dynamic is just so much more of an aspect to him. And as with a young family, it's hard to argue that.
And Riley, he kind of did say he's not leaving for the money. Yeah. He said he's leaving to win championships. That almost feels like a bit of a shot to me.
Well, when Len Rhodes doesn't believe in winning,
yeah, maybe that's exactly right? What it was.
There's more to football than winning football games. Well, no, Len, there really isn't. Sorry to burst your bubble, but if you're not winning, you're not going to have a job. So, and I know that the board signed off on getting rid of Ed Hervey, but that move made no sense, and it went downhill from there, and that turned the fans against Len Rhodes, and that's why we don't see a lot of upset people right now.
So I guess we could go in alphabetical order here, or at least maybe from west to east, and let's finish talking about BC. They bring in Mike Riley. We mentioned Suk Chung, Lamar Durant, and then some DBs. Chris Edwards. Oh, look at that, a 15-yard penalty. Aaron Grimes is on his way there. Josh
look
Woodman.
At that, another big gain for the inside receiver.
And they got a running back in John White, who showed last year he can still go. If he can stay healthy, and it kind of sucks. There's been a few years of his career it's unfortunate. You can only play football so long, and he looked like he still had it last year with Hamilton. But they also signed Josh Stanford from Montreal, Canadian receiver, and Deron Carter. So now we got Deron Carter.
Mike Riley's already got 2 kids at home. What does he want to? Does he want to deal with this at work now?
Deron Carter, Brian Burnham, and Mike Riley. if that doesn't sell tickets in Vancouver, what does? And I did see other people making a nice little point here. David Braley made something similar like this happen in Toronto. They made the trade to the Eskimos for Ricky Ray, and he was able to sell the Argos. I think Mike Riley might make the Lions brand a little bit more valuable for Braley to finally move that team and to have it into... Braley is a beautiful guy. He has kept
this league.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say afloat, but
he was there in some rough times.
And without him, we don't know if we'd still be talking about the CFL.
Absolutely. So, I think a lot of people in Vancouver do say, hey, it's time for Braley to sell the team, and we'll get to an owner. I don't know, maybe if they could get under the Canucks umbrella and the Whitecaps and everything like that, I think that would be good for the team, because I want to talk about something similar when we get to the Argos, because
the MLSE structure.
They are using that to woo in free agents now.
Yes, they are.
And they did it with Darrell Walker. So if Braley can sell the team, and I mean, they got a franchise guy, and what Mike Riley does is it's the off the field stuff too. I know Lule is a great guy in the community. He's a great face guy to be out there, and he's good at everything. But Mike Riley kind of takes things to a little bit of a different level. I don't know if there's anybody in the league that's really not a fan of him.
Yeah.
But anything.
It's like saying you don't like Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
Well, you don't like him because he's good and he's not on your team.
Well, you know what? Not as much as he used to be. I'll concede that. But when Riley does interviews, like you just listen to the guy talk and he explains everything. He's a guy you want to be the face of the franchise. Absolutely. And
yeah, absolutely.
For Vancouver, I think that's big.
And yes, what is going to help with Vancouver and getting butts in the seats? Winning will help. It's not going to be the only thing that's going to make a difference, but having a guy like Mike Riley as the face of your franchise, and if the team can, I don't want to overstep, but if the team, let's say, hosts a West Final this year, and Mike Riley has another year like he had this year, he outscored fantasy wise Bo Levi Mitchell by over 100 points over the course of the year.
With rushing touchdowns, yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
If they can win football games and be present in the community, and having a guy like Mike Riley I think will help that. No ill towards Travis Lule, because he is great at it too, but just Mike Riley is the starter, who's your franchise guy, and he's just a very recognizable face. And he does everything you want on and off the field, and that's going to be huge for the Lions.
I'm really interested to see what Duron will do, because this is by far, and I'm going off the top of my head here, the best quarterback he will have ever played with. And some of the things that he has done.
Shade at Brennan Bridge.
So, and he's already said it. Like, I don't have to worry about the ball getting to me anymore. So, he could be putting on a bit of a show here, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, the only issue I foresee, and I mean it's pretty obvious, is you have Duron Carter and you have Odell Willis in the same dressing room. They're very big personalities. Will they mesh, and is Mike Riley going to have to be the babysitter? Or anybody for that matter. I'm just using Mike Riley as an example because as a quarterback, you're usually a captain, and you're going to have to deal with some stuff. Like, as long as they can coexist and that dressing room stays cohesive, this team is going to be reckoned with.
Let's go to the Eskimos, and I think allowing BC to talk to Mike Riley and basically coming to terms with the Mike Riley loss did a lot for that team. And Brock Sunderland was able to come up with a plan
hey, what Desjardins did, I'll do.
So I think the Eskimos, the offense probably is not as good.
Well, look at the guys they've lost in the last 2 years.
Yeah, because you just have to look at Darrell Walker, Bryant Mitchell, Duke Williams,
Darius Bowman, Brandon Zylstra.
Yeah. And I mean, and then the quarterback, Mike Riley.
Yeah, Mike Riley.
So, but they were able to bring in guys that have played together, and I don't think that chemistry can be, understated. With the same guy protecting Trevor Harris's blind side, and then Greg Ellingson, who Harris has a good little connection with, and then they also get DeVaris Daniels from Calgary. But I think the biggest upgrade here is Edmonton's linebacking core all of a sudden is probably the best in the Canadian Football League. They bring in Larry Dean, Javon Santos-Knox from Winnipeg, and Don Unamba from Hamilton. And those are three massive signings.
Those are huge. And you have a guy like J.C. Sherritt retire, who, as a captain, and that he was the on-field leader for that defense. And we know when he was gone, that defense looked like it was missing a beat. It didn't have the same, I don't want to say effort, but maybe the intensity, and especially with a guy when Sherritt's gone out of that lineup, it's so hard for somebody else to step into that role. Your middle linebacker is your quarterback on the defensive side. So, getting Larry Dean in there and Unamba, that's going to be huge for that defense. And with the offense that they have, they lose. It is a downgraded quarterback. I don't think there's any debate there.
No.
But at the same time, with Mike Riley, they only won 9 games last year, and they knew he wasn't coming back. So they filled the hole with Harris, Greg Ellingson, Sir Vincent Rogers there now. Those guys coming in. I know it's going to seem cliquey probably at the start, and that's going to happen anywhere. But that offense, if Jason Moss can get those guys working like they did in Ottawa, they'll be laughing.
Well, and Dean and Unamba both played for Philip Lawley, who was a coach in Hamilton, brings his system to Edmonton, so they're going to be big on getting those guys up to speed with his system in Edmonton. We go to Calgary, and there's only one guy to talk about, because I think that's the thing that is as impressive about Calgary as probably any team we've seen in the past 2 decades.
And Winnipeg this season did kind of the same thing as well.
They do not care about free agency.
No.
They don't have to. They are such a stable franchise that they are the ultimate next man up team. And we saw it with the receiving core last year. They are prepared for injuries, and they are prepared to lose guys to free agency when it happens. And they have signed nobody. There's some re-signings, obviously, but bringing back Bo Levi Mitchell. And the Riders are next here too. From where I was looking, it kind of seemed like Jeremy O'Day was so focused on signing Bo that he let Harris get away, that he let Jennings get away. And maybe when Bo really never had intentions of leaving Calgary, he basically used Toronto and Saskatchewan to get more money out of Huffnagel.
Genius.
Which I wasn't exactly sure that he was going to be able to do, because Calgary, they've got their formula. They know they like to pay this position this much. And it just shows how valuable a guy like Bo is when they're able to get that money out of John Huffnagel.
But if they're not going to pay Bo, I don't think it would matter. I know how deep they are. Without a quarterback like Bo Levi Mitchell, I'm sorry, but Nick Arbuckle is not Bo Levi Mitchell.
No.
You're going to get Buckley to come out of retirement? Probably not.
Brandon Bridge?
But
don't leave.
We got to talk about Brandon Bridge when we get to the Riders' boat last night. These guys, and that's maybe why they can pay Bo Levi Mitchell that little more, because they have the depth where those guys aren't making, top dollar at their position. They can pay a little less until they have to re-sign them, and then we see guys move on, and it's just plug and play, and they're able to find guys that fit real well, and they just re-sign them until they're too expensive, and then see you later. And we keep comparing them to New England Patriots.
I know.
The only thing the Patriots have done is win more championships, but Calgary is perennially the top contender in the West, except for 2015.
Yeah.
It's crazy how they're able to do this again and again.
The Argos made Bo a legit offer, paying him over $800,000 a year. And Bo basically left $500K over the next 4 years to stay in Calgary and stay in that winning system with Hufnagel and Dave Dickinson. But, I mean, I think the next contract that Bo signs is going to be the biggest of his career. And there might be a chance, and who knows by then, is Mike Riley going to be the same player in 4 years at 38 years old as Bo is going to be when he's 32, really? So is he going to get that $1 million a year contract?
I could see it, but at the same time, they're going to have to make concessions somewhere else on that roster. And I'm not saying that it can't happen, but for him to get $1 million, there's going to be guys that they're going to have to let go that are integral parts to that offense and even maybe to the defense, and it's going to leave holes. And we've seen it in other sports where you pay these the best players on your roster and the guy you really want, you pay the top one or two guys all this money and you can't build anything around them.
So let's talk about Saskatchewan, where it was not what they did, it was kind of what they didn't do. Let's face it, the defense really didn't have that many holes. There really wasn't all that much to upgrade there. If they're able to play at the level they did last year, which I don't know if you saw Javon Johnson's exit tribute post to the Riders. He basically says, yeah, there's a lot of dysfunction in the locker room. Maybe a lot of that has to do with the leader and the chaos that he likes to bring, but I think it's good for defenders. I don't think they're normal guys.
No, they're like a goalie,
right? So basically, they lose Willie Jefferson, but they bring in Micah Johnson, and I don't know if many Rider fans want to admit this, but I think Mike is more valuable than Willie because the chaos that he brings to the middle of a line, I think, is more valuable than off the end. So they bring AC Leonard. I don't think AC is on the same level as Willie Jefferson, but Micah Johnson
is going to open up stuff.
And Willie is a bit of a wash there, I think, and Micah might even be more valuable there. So you're right. If Micah's able to crush the middle of the line, it doesn't matter who's playing defensive end.
I could get around if there's nobody there.
What he was able to do, 14 sacks from the defensive tackle position.
That's insane. It's insane.
There are three guys that I would put maybe in Micah's category at defensive tackle, and it's probably Teddy Laurent, Armando Sewell, and maybe Coleman in BC, Davon Coleman, for the second half of last season. He was able to do a lot. Can he do it again? But Mike is in a class of his own there, and there are a lot of good defensive ends in this league. There's Bowman, there's Willis, there is Hughes, there's
Kwaku Boateng.
Yes, and Lemon, and there's a lot of good defensive ends. So the tackles are almost more valuable. So I think the Rider defensive line's not going to take that much of a hit. Losing Sam McGuavin sucks, and losing Toby Antigua does suck for that defense. But I think most fans wanted to go into free agency hoping that the Riders could lock up one of the big three, Riley, Harris, or Bo. They couldn't. And then I would say probably the next tier would be Jennings. They didn't. But they were able to get Micah Johnson and running back William Powell, which I think the combination of Powell and Thigpen is a dangerous combination in the CFL.
Oh, and Powell, the last 2 years, has been battling with Andrew Harris for the lead in rushing.
Yeah.
And, he's really hard to take down. We've seen him kill the Riders numerous occasions. So
torches
now,
him.
If you can't beat him, join, right? And Ottawa just totally blew up during free agency, so there was an opportunity there. And we saw last year that this team doesn't need a defense to win games, or it doesn't need an offense, a quarterback to win games. It would be nice.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And what they have at quarterback right now is not any better. It might be worse because we don't know what Claro's health situation is. But having a guy like William Powell, like you mentioned, Marcus Thigpen back there, take a little bit more pressure off now. And if you can establish a run game, as long as the OC is willing to do that, now you have a guy like Powell, and it's not Trey Mason rushing for a yard and leaving you 2nd and 9 all the time.
And they do re-sign Zach Collaros. I do. Being able to see your facial expression is just absolutely beautiful. But last year, we went into camp and
Optimistic.
but we didn't even know he was going to be the starter. Or at least I figured he would be. Jones never said it.
No. But I think we all kind of knew, well, there's no way Bridge is going to be your opening day starter over Collaros unless Collaros gets hurt.
Yeah. He did get hurt in the preseason game against Calgary. Now, I don't know if that threw the rest of the season off, but it's just absolutely incredible to me that Collaros' best games last year were against the Stampeder defense. I don't know how that happened. If that Collaros played
18 games,
the Riders might have gone 14-4. And I don't think that is all that crazy to say. And if he plays in the playoffs at the level that he played against Calgary, then we're probably talking about last season a little bit differently here. But now he knows he's the guy. I mean, he knows the system. That's a big thing. They bring back Naaman Roosevelt, which is really big. And they were also able to sign Manny Arsenault. I'm being quite realistic about this one. I love Manny.
10 games maybe?
Yeah, is he going to be able to get in there by Labor Day?
Yeah.
The knee injury late last year. He says he's good to go, but he also said that in the playoffs in November, and they didn't get him on the roster.
He also says that every year,
yeah.
and he gets hurt. So you got to take it with a grain of salt and just hope that, this is one of those renaissance seasons for a guy like the Manny Show, and that he can stay healthy and contribute in this offense. Because let's be honest, if their number one option is Naaman Roosevelt, which he's a top. I would maybe not top tier, but he is a very good wide receiver in this league. After that, there's not a lot of options.
Kyron Moore came on late last season, but he's still so young, so probably
unproven. You don't know.
Yeah,
but
Shaq Evans, I mean, he's another one of those guys.
Roosevelt's going to be getting double coverage, so somebody is going to have that opportunity, and you just hope. And if it's Manny Arsenault, then it's a sure-handed guy. You know what he can do. These other guys still have to prove it. And they do have some experience under their belt, but we just don't know. It's a very small sample size. We don't know what they're going to turn into.
The way things have gone for the Rough Riders in free agency, it kind of looks like they're going to have the same offensive philosophy as last year.
Goody.
I mean, they're probably going to lean on William Powell a lot.
I'm okay with that because it's not Trey Mason.
But there were times last year when they didn't really trust the run either. And if they did, they were stuck in second and long consistently. Powell, you should be able to be playing from 2nd and 5 and 2nd and 4. And I think Zach Collaros is still at a point where he can handle that better than, the 2nd and 10s or 11s that he was consistently dealing with last season.
And let's be honest, short yardage, a guy like William Powell, if it's 2nd and 3, you can still run the ball.
Oh, yeah.
His yards after contact, and just
he's a monster.
He's a monster when it comes to carrying the football. So that 2nd and 3 doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to throw a short pass. There's going to be a lot. He opens up other options for this offense that they didn't have last year with the running backs they had.
Let's go to Winnipeg, where basically, they signed a defensive back from BC, Winston Rose, but their biggest signing is Willie Jefferson. And, man,
that's a big loss.
That Banjo Bowl moment last year, watching Jefferson in green and white saunter down the field as slow as possible. Will we see it the other way for Winnipeg? But they've got a lot of cash sunk into Willie Jefferson and Adam Bighill. And as a result, the Bombers' losses are pretty rough. They let Chris Randall go, and he's a veteran guy. His play has maybe declined. I think a lot of people would say that over the last year or so. But they lose Suk Chung, Jovan Santos Knox, Kevin Fogg, Taylor Loeffler.
That one's going to hurt.
Is a big, big loss. So, I mean, while the Bombers were able to keep those offensive tackles in Bryant and Hardrick, they actually lost a lot in this offseason, too. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebound.
And losing a guy like Taylor Loeffler changes your defense entirely. He's a safety, but he can play anywhere on the field. He lines up in spots where you don't expect a safety to be. And if you're a receiver, are you really going to want to run a 15-yard dig route?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get my head taken off by Taylor Loeffler. I don't know about you.
So, I mean, he can hit.
He changes the game because he makes the offense on the other side change their game plan, and he's only one player.
Dressler is still available. I don't know if they bring him back. He's had trouble staying on the field basically since he became Winnipeg Blue Bomber, but there are 3 more D linemen that are available for the Bombers, and I'd call them good players. Tristan Okapalugo, Drake Nevis, and Trent Corney, all available for the Bombers. So they've lost some solid players, but they do still, have that core together in Bomberland. But it's also another story what the Bombers couldn't do in free agency. And a lot of fans thought, and I think the Bombers were open about it, that they were going to try and get a big name, big receiver. They were looking at Brian Burnham. He re-signed with BC before he became a free agent. Then they were looking at DeVere Posey. They were looking at Greg Ellingson. They were looking at Terrell Walker, and they lost out on all of them. So the Bombers gotta hope that they can recruit a brand new international wide receiver that can be a game changer for them.
Does Strevler have any old roommates?
Yeah. Call them up because, man, the receivers right now are not. They tried the Darius Bowman last year. It didn't work out. I'm sure they wanted in on Manny Arsenault as well, but that didn't work out. If they're waiting until NFL cuts, I think it might be too late.
You cannot dig yourself a hole, especially in the West Division, because you will not climb out of it. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But Nick Dembski, he's good. He's not a number one guy. Drew Wolitarsky, not a number one guy. Daniel Peterman, not a number one guy. So, and which could benefit Matt Nichols because he doesn't like to throw the ball downfield anyway. Well, maybe he does, but you know what I mean, right? It just, I don't know. We talk about Saskatchewan, and they didn't make a lot of big splashes other than Micah Johnson.
Yeah.
But, Winnipeg only signed 2 free agents, really, and didn't really address a problem that they have with the wide receiver core.
Opening up the Bombers website and seeing Willie there just makes me kind of sick. But Darvin Adams is their guy in the receiving core, and I mean he's a great receiver, but I'm assuming that he would like some help down the field.
It's hard when a guy like Darvin Adams. Teams are going to game plan for him in an offense.
Oh yeah.
And whether that means doubling them or having the bracket or the safety cover help, it's going to open up stuff underneath. But I mean, it's tough when you don't have a number 2 option who can maybe draw some attention, or if Darvin Adams isn't, I don't want to say not producing, but getting shut down, I guess.
Yeah.
That he's going to catch, the other guy's going to catch 7 for 110 and a touchdown maybe, and move that offense down the field. And right now I don't know if they really have that. We've seen it from Drew Wolitarsky a little bit. They don't go to him consistently. Peterman don't go to him consistently. Nick Dembski, they kind of use him in almost every position on the
all
field.
Over the place, yeah.
So I mean there is options there, but just there's not that wide receiver second option that I would be comfortable with right now, unless it's going to be a guy that's already on the roster and they're going to put more trust in him and use him accordingly.
Before we get to the East Division, saying thank you to Park Power today. Of course, if you're in Alberta, you get to choose who you buy your energy from. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So if you switch retailers, nothing changes about the delivery of electricity or natural gas to your home or business. It's pretty cool. You can go to the website, parkpower.ca. You can plug in the numbers, what you're paying for your energy right now. It'll show you how much you're going to save. So make the switch, save a pile of cash. You're supporting an Alberta company as well. So that money stays right there in the province, and a part of the profits support support local charities as well. So what are we doing here? We're feeding two birds with one scone. It is Park Power. Make the switch today. parkpower.ca.
I am too hungover for this.
You can't even correct me anymore. I love it.
I've given up.
What are we bringing home? We're bringing home the bagels, baby. Hey, I might even make enough to afford the name brand cream cheese. Okay, let's head east. I don't know where to start or finish with Ottawa. Let's start with Ottawa. So
remember when we thought Montreal was a dumpster fire?
I think it was going to be between Ottawa and Edmonton before Tuesday happened. Who's going to have the roughest offseason? I actually texted Andrew from the Empire on Monday. I'm like, is this the worst offseason in Eskimos history? And then Tuesday happened.
Yeah. So they've rebounded well.
But Ottawa did not make much happen. They ended up signing Jonathan Jennings. I believe it was Wednesday, day 2 or 3, they ended up signing him. So that's who they're going to roll with. But if you look at the losses, it's William Powell, it's Greg Ellingson, it's Sir Vincent Rogers, it's Trevor Harris. And they all sort of had the same tune, saying they did not feel respected or valued anymore by Marcel Desjardins.
And if that's the truth, that's a real tough look. And don't forget, Deontay Spencer went to Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah.
So they have Brad Sinopoli.
And I love Brad Sinopoli.
I do too, but you can't have one guy. Like,
I'm not sure.
And to say, and for Desjardins to come out and say they're fully prepared to move ahead with Dominique Davis as their quarterback.
He did say that, yeah.
All you fans in Ottawa that were bitching and moaning, and Trevor Harris wasn't getting the job done. You wanted Davis to start. Now you get it. Don't come crying to me week 10 when you're 1-9.
Harris, I felt like he never did get the respect in Ottawa when they only signed him to a 1-year deal after Henry retired, and they weren't even sure they were going to sign him for that. What are you going to go with? And I like Jonathan Jennings. I think the 2016 Jennings is in there somewhere. And they may be able to get it out of him with the coaching in Ottawa. They might be able to. I don't know if he would have been able to handle the pressure in the fishbowl of Regina. I don't know if Jennings...
I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
I don't know if he's that guy. I don't think there's exactly no pressure playing in Ottawa either. But he's got a fresh start, and I almost feel like Jennings was trying too much to be a pocket guy. And I don't think that's what he is. I think he's at his best when he is just going out there and playing sandlot football. And I know people say that about Brandon Bridge, but there have been a number of offensive linemen not happy playing for Brandon Bridge because they have no idea where he's going to be or what he's going to do. There's a loss of 22 yards here, a loss of 13 there.
It's such a drastic change compared to Zach Claros that
it is.
Your offensive line has to be so versatile to have two quarterbacks that are completely different.
Yeah.
So I could understand not liking having Brandon Bridge back there when you're used to a guy who doesn't run anymore. But yeah, I do agree with you that I don't think it would ever be as good as it was in 2016 for Jonathan Jennings, but it's got to be better than this.
Because a lot of people thought he had MOP potential the next year, and it just hasn't happened. So I hope for his sake and for Ottawa's sake that he can live up to that potential. Let's not forget, he's still young. He is not a old player by any means, but it feels like he's been around for a while. He's only 26. He turns 27 in July.
But he's a Buckeye, so I mean, played from Ohio and Big Ten kid. I know we didn't play in the Big Ten, but I just like making fun of the Buckeyes because it's so easy.
Now I know it's only February. Everybody's kind of written off Ottawa right now, but they were kind of written off last year. And Desjardins and Rick Campbell have some sort of system, and they stick to it, and they make it work. So I don't want to predict they're going to finish last.
I'll say it right now.
Do you think they're last in the East?
Yes.
Whoa.
They lost their entire offense.
They did.
I know they still have R.J. Harris.
Right.
But you lost Brad Sinopoli. Or, sorry, not Brad Sinopoli. Greg Ellenson, Deontay Spencer, William Powell, and your starting quarterback, who for some reason nobody liked.
Yeah.
Which always made zero sense to me. Don't get me.
It's almost like the PK Subban treatment a little bit.
Oh, man. It's like Kevin Glenn.
No respect. No, Rodney Dangerfield.
No respect. Yeah, I've come around on Kevin Glenn being a Hall of Famer after looking at numbers and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. He still throws an inopportune interception.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's gotten the job done. He hasn't won championships, but he's got teams there. He can play. From what we've seen from Davis, I have zero faith in that offense right now. And he doesn't have a lot of options. I mean, right? He's got Brad Sinopoli and R.J. Harris, which, don't get me wrong, they're good, but it's Dominique freaking Davis.
So when Davis came in last year, he comes in. I mean, the guy's got a rifle on him. If he can rein that in, he could be a good quarterback in the league. But let's move on from Ottawa, because when free agency happened, everybody thought that when Bo stayed in Calgary, that Hamilton was the team in the East, and they were going to walk away with this. And
with a 9-9 record.
Yeah. They're another team that didn't really have to do all that much, but what they did were some nice key signings, and I think a big one is Tunde Adeleke, returning to Southern Ontario from Calgary, and Jagera Davis on the defensive line. That's a big signing for the Tiger Cats as well, because I think a lot of people thought that there maybe would be some Stampeder defenders that would follow Devon Claybrooks to BC. Now, I don't know if the Lions can afford to pay any more of
I don't think they can afford to pay the guys they have.
I don't know.
Under the cap, I shouldn't say can't afford.
They can pay him,
yeah.
But legally, I'm not sure. So I don't know if... I thought that these guys were going to maybe follow Claybrooks, but they spread out over the league a little bit. Those two Stampeder defenders going to Hamilton, I think, are big signings.
That, for sure. They didn't lose much off the offense. They were able to get all their guys who signed, except for maybe Tolliver, I think. We don't know. I mean, the guy's hurt lots lately, or in the last couple of years. So I don't know if they're going to part ways or what the plan is there. But you got a guy like Tunde Adeleke who can shut down receivers.
When he was their Rookie of the Year nominee, he can return punts.
And that's another thing. He solidifies a returning game that is already deadly with Brandon Banks. But if something happens, like we've seen where Banks can't return kicks, they have an insurance policy there as well.
So let's talk about, let's go Owls right now.
Oh, yeah.
Who actually, you want to say something nice about them. You got some haters in Montreal.
Weird.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I'm trying to figure out why. But they actually made some key signings as well. We're talking about Stampeders free agents kind of cashing in a little bit. They get offensive lineman Spencer Wilson from Calgary, a defensive back Patrick Levels. But these next three signings, I think, are nice for the Alouettes. Devere Posey, Bo Lacumbo, who I'm a believer of from BC. He was kind of like on the fringe of maybe getting his shot there, but he's going to go to Montreal and get his shot. And they end up signing Canadian safety Taylor Loeffler. So they're doing okay there. I just have doubts still in the coaching staff.
That is the one thing there's only two things I don't like, and it's the coaching staff. I don't think Mike Sherman really knows what he's doing. And
especially in Canada, yeah.
Yeah, and Bowman for 2 years.
That was really interesting because...
But at the same time, they can just cut him.
Because what did he say? He was 98% sure
He was done.
that he was done.
So if it was only 1%, would they have only been a 1-year contract?
So honestly, I thought he was maybe going to try and head west for the first time in his career. But I mean, 14 years in, do you really want to?
Do you really want to leave Crescent Street?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Mike Riley, that $700K a year goes a lot further in Edmonton than Vancouver.
Oh.
And Bo's contract goes a lot further in Calgary than Toronto.
Yeah.
So it all evens out in the end, man.
And we see it in hockey too, and the NFL where states don't have income tax at that level.
Yeah.
So teams in Florida, Tennessee, they can pay less and get guys to stay because they would have. For example, and I know people hate it when we talk hockey, but Steven Stamkos, if he would have went to the Leafs, would have had to make $10.5 million a year to make the $8 that he's making in Tampa.
Wow.
So that does. I think that is a huge decision, and these guys all have money, guys, and they know what they're doing. I don't think Mike Riley will be living downtown.
Yeah.
With two young ones, but at the same time, it's not cheap to live in Vancouver or in the surrounding area.
Say something nice about Montreal.
I don't really have a lot of issues with it's another year with Johnny Manziel, which can't be worse. And he got better as the year went on.
Well, and now he'll have a full training camp.
Now he has a full training camp in this system.
Yeah.
They were able to re-sign BJ Cunningham, and they brought in DeVere Posey, which could be huge.
And maybe, hopefully, Ernest Jackson can rebound a little bit.
Absolutely. And, it's just, and Taylor Loeffler changes that defense.
He does.
He's a leader out there, and I would be, like I said earlier, I would be scared to go across the middle. They've made a lot of improvements, and I think with the route Ottawa took in free agency and not signing everybody and just letting everybody leave, I think we might have to start an Ottawa swear jar instead of a Montreal swear jar this year. Until Mike Sherman screws everything up in week 3 and we're right back to where we started.
Okay, let's go to Toronto here, where as soon as they lost out on Bo, they really made some nice moves. All the running backs. That is the philosophy in Toronto.
Wait, all the running backs was Jacques Chapdelaine. Why does he even need a running back?
Hey, you can each teach an old dog new tricks. I think that's it. They're going all running game.
For one game. And the next game he'll rush it 10 times.
Yeah. So we got Brandon Burks. We have James Wilder. We have Chris Rainey. It's it's unbelievable, the running backs. They also signed Tyrell Sutton. So the Argonauts, if they have a bad run game next year,
it's solely on Josh Chapdelaine.
I don't know where you can go wrong. I do think, oh man, I would not be shocked if Wilder's gone.
I would, with the cap and the amount of guys they have, he's probably going to be the most expensive guy on the roster right now, I would think, at the running back position.
Yeah,
probably. And we saw last year that Brandon Burks can do that job. We know guys like Chris Rainey can do it when given the opportunity.
I kind of wonder if they'll move him. He's electric on kick return, so maybe that's his primary job. And I think he could probably play slot back or something.
Absolutely, and he can play. He can spell at running back as well. It's not. We've seen it. We've seen him start at running back and produce. They still have Dexter McCluster
and Anthony Coombs.
They are low. Jeez, they
and
are
now they have
loaded.
They got Mercer Timmis as well.
They are loaded at the running back position. So are they just gonna run Wishbone all season? That being said, Riders' opening day quarterback could very well be Nick Marshall.
I think the Argos actually made some big defensive upgrades as well. Mm-hmm. So they bring in Kevin Fogg. Sean Lemon is back.
Kevin Fogg can return kicks as well.
Micah Awe is now in Toronto.
Oh, good. So he'll be nice and close to the league office when he gets fined. He can just drop the check in the mail.
Toby Antigua and Corey Poop Johnson, who...
International news.
Oh, man. ESPN picked this thing up.
He's got to wear number 2. Like Chris Rainey, sorry, man, but we're giving that number 2 to Poop.
That has to happen.
And if it does, I'll get a jersey.
They need to... Don't put Johnson on the back.
I'm going to put Poop.
I think he's actually a good defensive tackle.
He's not the level that we were talking about guys like Michael Johnson, but
of course.
He can still disrupt a game at points. He's not going to do it as often as the other guys, but he's good at his job.
I mean, when you got a
name like Poop,
you have to be good,
or else everybody's going to think you're Poop.
So I think the Argos, they actually had an all right free agency when they lost out on Bo. Now they're going to have to go into the season with Franklin and Bethel Thompson. Maybe there is still a trade in there somewhere where they decide to go with one over the other or something like that. But, I mean, there is a lot of hope for James Franklin when he became a free agent last year. He did the trade and sign with Toronto, but there was a lot of hype for him last offseason.
And that was
maybe it's because he was like the only guy available considering this year.
And I mean, Edmonton, I don't want to say and blame fans, but the fan base in Edmonton kind of pumped his tires.
They did. They really did. And even though
let's be honest, we got caught up in it too. Like, oh yeah, he's going to look real good in the other shade of green. Right?
Yeah.
But Jim Pop was on Primetime Sports last week, said they are James Franklin is going to be the starting quarterback.
Well,
and they want to go after Travis Lulay because they want him to come in a backup role and help.
That'd be good for him.
James Franklin and be perfect, I think. Whether or not that happens, we'll have to see. But.
So maybe Bethel Thompson is the one that
odd man out.
That they move. It did seem like Tressman was not a Franklin guy, but Pop was.
Yes, I think that's fair to say.
So I think Pop gets his guy now. Chapdelaine, he's had good passing offenses. I mean, he did it with Kevin Glenn recently. So I don't know. Can he do it with James Franklin again? I mean, you got to run the ball when, like, who's going to get on the roster the way it is right now?
They can't sign any more wide receivers.
A lot of these guys are going to be moving,
or cut.
Yeah,
not necessarily even traded, just cut. So Toronto's got to like at some point we're going to have to get cut down to 75, and then final roster's finalized, and this roster is going to look nothing like it looks right now. And
now the receiving core, you got S.J. Green and Darrell Walker.
And don't forget, Armani Edwards gets no respect in that offense.
He's a good receiver.
He used to be a quarterback. Did you know that?
No.
No, Rod Black tells me that 10 times a game.
Darrell Walker, though, apparently now the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. I think that has to make Eskimo fans a little bit happy. I would not make him. It feels like I'm slamming the guy, but if I'm building a team, would you make him?
I'm not starting at wide receiver.
Yeah. So would you make him the highest paid? You probably wouldn't. The highest paid non-quarterback
I don't
in the CFL. But I guess that's what free agency is all about. Guys get paid more for every single time, but they use the MLSE umbrella to really bring Walker to Toronto. They had him there with some Argonaut players in a box at a Raptors game, and that's a big thing. It's probably more familiar for a lot of the guys to be in a city like Toronto instead of even in Edmonton or even a Regina.
Yeah.
We got Dudney, man. We got 4 bars. That's it.
And one of them's condemned.
Although that street meat after the bar, can't beat that.
Don't forget the outside the Pal. That street meat we had in Winnipeg was really good too.
I can't believe that place has come to the ground.
It was the greatest bar in the world. I was only there once.
I was going to say, because before the podcast started, you went on a rant to my dad.
Yeah, me and your dad are kindred spirits.
Saying you will never return to Winnipeg. And now that the Pal's gone,
I have no reason to go back.
Damn.
Maybe to visit Neely.
Yeah, exactly. We got to get... I want to go to a Banjo Bowl. That's a bucket list thing for me. But the Argos made some big signings, and now all of a sudden it looks like, hey, maybe they can compete with Hamilton.
I was just thinking to myself, like, I know we're not going to do predictions on this episode or anything, but like just the more and more I look, like if once they get their running back situation figured out and having SJ, Jarrell Walker, and Armani Edwards on that offense, and improving the defense like they did, Hamilton's going to have a better year than 9-9.
Yeah.
To win that East Division if everybody stays healthy, of course, which is a caveat for every sport, every season, every game. But yeah, the moves they've made, I don't think they're going to be. I wouldn't call them the laughing stock of the East Division, but almost like an also-ran. Mm-hmm. It just seemed to be there, and then they never seem to get over any hump. They'd get halfway up the hill and roll backwards. They'd win two, lose 4, win 1, lose 3,
and hopefully build some consistency from year to year. Mm-hmm. Like they'll win a Grey Cup, and then they follow it up with nothing.
The Florida Marlins.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So hopefully they can. Get that going in Toronto. What surprised you most about free agency? For me, I think it was the money. And
the Harashi.
And I don't know if it is because, this offseason they're not allowed to pay signing bonuses, so they probably just worked it into the salary. But a lot of the deals were actually revealed by the teams, especially Mike Riley, and then it happened with Bo, and those guys are on a different level because they're making a pile of cash. The minimum salary guys, a lot of Canadians, are on that level. So I could see why they never want to reveal those salaries. But I get it.
I think as a fan base, though, for the league and for each team, we know what it is. We know the situation.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're going to crap on these guys. Like, we're fans of the league. We want it, the more information, the better.
I think so.
And I also, but when a guy's only making, for example, $20,000 to play 18 football games, I don't know if he'd be comfortable with that being out there, being like that's all.
Yeah.
So I get that point of it, but more information just can get more people engaged and give us more news to talk about. And how much
well, and that's what Ed Hervey said. He said.
Teams can disclose it if they want to.
Exactly, and he thought it would be good for the fans.
This is what we're doing. This is how much we're giving this guy. We're all in.
To discuss this and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes over the next little while. If salaries are going to be publicly available, maybe just the top paid guys. But the amount of money that was dished out at this free agency, man, I don't know if we've been misled in the past as to what the top stars get paid, and maybe they're doing it to show the AAF as well, that the top stars in Canada, they make money. Mm-hmm. They do okay here. Yes, the minimum salary is better in that league, but if you come to Canada
and succeed
and you light it up, you are going to make some money for yourself.
Absolutely. And I mean, that can be said with almost any sport.
Yeah.
Especially in the OHL. But
and the NCAA.
But I mean, it is another professional league where guys are going to have the opportunity to go.
Hervey said that there is
going to be a competition to get talent.
There's a stigma with some fans, even, or even people that don't. They trash the CFL or whatever. These guys don't make any money. And then the Bo Mitchell and the Riley contracts come out.
Casey Printers made $500K a year.
Yeah.
And he played 9 games?
Yeah. I would like to make $750,000 a year to play football. And I mean, it's only a short window in their lives when you really, when it gets down to it. So they got to make money when they can. But it's showing that, hey, these stars, they get paid.
Yeah, and I mean, I know the tax implications, everything is a little different because with the internet and all that crap. But if you are even a mid-level guy, like, is still going to make enough money to live. It's those minimum wage, or not minimum wage, like the minimum, the cap floor guys, they get hurt and they need to figure something out. But they're the ones playing for love of the game. They're the ones playing to keep their spot because they get to do what they love, and they get to keep playing football and keep the dream alive. And that's why they're here. And they know they're never going to go any further than maybe a special teamer, or be able to move on to the NFL or anything like that. But they just want to play.
Yeah.
And they're getting that opportunity. And why harp somebody up for that? It's their dream. They want to play professional football. They are.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't if you want to get out of radio and do something else. I don't see why anybody would be like, well, why would you do that? That sounds stupid.
Oh, exactly.
It's their choice. I don't get the negativity.
I do think that, some of the teams have been crushing it on social media. The Lions, the Argos, even the Eskimos, the hype videos they have made to usher in a new era has been really awesome. And I think some tweets came out that the CFLPA has said they have given the league, actually on Friday, the 15th, notice to bargain to the CFL. They're ready to begin negotiations as they seek respect and fair treatment. So give Brian Ramsey a follow on Twitter. He's actually been given some very transparent tweets. His handle's @RamseyCFLPA. It's going to be interesting to see how public some of these negotiations have gone. I do think
that'll go well if they are public.
Yeah. The league has given them some concessions. The extra bye week, I think. There were some discussions about the live mic games, the padded practices, and things like that. So some of the stuff I think has already been worked out a little bit. Maybe the biggest deal is going to be the minimum salary and possible health insurance as we head in to these negotiations. And they're going to have some long days at the table, I think.
And it's not going to be fun.
No. But some are saying that it doesn't look like the players are united because they're signing contracts anyway. So,
but
I don't know what that means. You got to get paid.
You got to get paid, and
yeah,
the only thing now with no signing bonuses is that if God forbid, there's a lockout, they're not getting a cent.
No.
But this way, they're not. This way, everybody's pretty confident that it's going to be ratified and we'll be good to go. They know what's up. They don't have to worry about it. They just have to make sure this thing gets through, gets ratified, and we'll have a season. And these guys that are already signed would be like, well, not my problem. You paid me this money and the salary cap didn't go up. Yeah. You're not going to cut Mike Riley. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. Some of the mid guys might.
Yes.
But the top guys, no, because somebody else will pick them up right away. Just one more note. It looks like on Thursday they will be unveiling the location for the 2020 Grey Cup. We know it's between Hamilton, Montreal, and Regina. Now, the Ticats and the Riders both having viewing parties for the 2020 Grey Cup unveiling.
What if Montreal wins?
There has to be... They've got to be revealing 2 years.
I would think.
Because Hamilton and
what
Regina.
If it's Montreal and Regina. Hamilton still doesn't get one.
It has to be 20 and 21.
I don't know why you would hold two viewing
That's
parties.
what I mean.
So that one can leave pissed off. Like, come on.
There would be a riot in Hamilton if
they'd have to build a new stadium because they'd burn this one down.
Because you have to think if one doesn't get it, they'll get it in 21.
You would think.
So we'll see what happens on Thursday where the 2020 Grey Cup and possibly 21 is going to happen. It's Brazilian Ty, Travis Currah, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Judging by your conversation with my dad, I went onto the AlbertaPodcastNetwork.com website. I went to
the politics
I did.
tab.
I did. So check out the Dave Berta podcast. Dave and Ryan talk politics, policy, and events from an Edmontonian, Albertan, and Canadian perspective. So vote with your ears and check out the Dave Berta podcast at AlbertaPodcastNetwork.com. I'm not sure when we will do another episode. I believe the Combine's coming up next month. Maybe we get...
March 22nd to 24th is the National Combine.
There we go. So maybe we'll do an episode before then, and who knows what else could happen in this crazy offseason.
The Riders might sign a quarterback.
It's Vince Young. Hey, Colin Kaepernick. Maybe he's coming to Montreal. He could literally play.
He doesn't need to play anymore. He just made $50 million from the NFL.
He could play in a $1 contract. He just got paid, you know.
Definitely minimum.
Oh, okay. So there we go. Alouettes get Colin Kaepernick for $55K.
Riders get Colin Kaepernick. Let's go.
Rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.